Hey, what it is, what it do, what it be, you know what it is, you know where you is. Oh yes, it is that time once again. It is that time, that place, the I Am the Possible podcast experience. Yes, this is the place where possibilities, they become perspective, guys. Welcome once again into the I Am the Possible universe, the I Am the Possible podcast experience, the I Am the Possible University. Yes, guys, welcome once again into this space, into this place. I want to first pause for the cause. You know what that is. You are the cause. You're the reason I do what I do. Thank you guys so much for everything that you guys do and for everything that you guys are. I want to honor you, celebrate you, and thank God for you. Guys, we are in season 8, and like I said before, it's going to be great. Season 8 is going to be great. It's already great because it's already started, and we've already started to introduce you guys to some amazing individuals, and this week is no different. Guys, I cannot wait for you to be introduced to the doctor, Dr. Rumbi. Listen, Dr. Rumbi is someone who is going to introduce you to something. I believe she's going to introduce you to something new, something that you may have never considered before. And I'm not going to spoil it. No spoiler alerts here. But it opened my eyes. It helped me to think about some things in some different ways, in some new, exciting ways. It presented, it presented a new opportunity for me to love on my family, to honor my family, and to just make an investment in my family. And so I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna let her share exactly what that is and how you, if you choose to, and if you are inspired, like I've been inspired to participate, how you can get involved in this very unique and very innovative product and service that she offers. But listen, she is an amazing individual, has so much value, has so much to share, so much love, so much empathy, and just a very powerful perspective, and so excellent and so professional. And so she just really brings so much to the table. I cannot wait for you guys to learn from her. I want you guys to really open your hearts, open your minds, and get ready to receive some new and some profound information, and to get ready to see things a little differently, guys. Listen, I just want to say before I read her bio that there are times where God inspires individuals with an idea, a concept that really meets people where they are. A lot of times in America culture, especially, we take things and we always want to, I don't know how to say it. We just want to draw more from people, right? We just want to serve them something and get paid for it. And we just want to sell them something else and get paid for it. And it becomes very transactional, and it becomes very cold and just that's the best word for it, transactional. I think Dr. Rumbi, I believe that she's been blessed with something that goes beyond transaction, that goes beyond, I've got something and I want to sell it to you. I've got something and I want to give it to you, and I want you to give me money in exchange for it. I believe that she's creating a partnership of lasting impact, influence for years to come. Something that won't feel transactional, that won't feel like you're being sold. I believe when you hear what she does and hear what she's offering, I believe that you're going to be inspired to want to participate and to lean into it and to consider it for yourself and for your family. So just wanted to say that before I got into the bio. Let me read the bio here. I'm going to go ahead and share it on my screen so that I can see it. You won't be able to see it, but I'll go ahead and read it, and then we'll get right into this amazing conversation with the doctor, Dr. Rumbi. So Dr. Rumbi is your favorite legacy coach with over a decade of experience as a seasoned researcher, consultant, and facilitator, having honed her skills at esteemed institutions such as the CIA, and Twitter. My goodness, as well as various other notable public and private organizations. Her extensive background in these high profile environments has made her an expert at helping teams and organizations do what seems impossible. Dr. Rumbi is dedicated to guiding individuals and families in sharing their end of life wishes, protecting their wealth, and ensuring it's passed on to future generations. As the innovative founder of I Am Willing, and you guys know I love that title, I Am Willing, she is deeply committed to this mission. Dr. Rumbi is making an enduring impact in the field of legacy planning through her engaging workshops and personalized one-on-one coaching sessions, where she leverages her extensive experience and expertise to help people begin their journey. Guys, with no further delay, let's get right into this amazing conversation that I was blessed and fortunate to have with Dr. Rumbi. Guys, until next time, please remember, because I won't get to say it at the end, so let me say it now. Please remember, genius is your design. Greatness is your destiny. God loves you. I love you. Be encouraged. And above all else, be what is possible. God bless you guys. Enjoy. All right, Doctor, thank you so much for sharing your life, sharing just all that you are and all of who you are with me and with this audience. I want to formally welcome you into the I Am the Possible universe. This is a place where I say possibilities become perspective. It's a place where hope is reestablished, a place where, dreams are okay, a place where optimism is okay, and a place where people are allowed to be themselves. And so I just want you to shine today, and I want you to feel free to just be all that you are, however you are, wherever you are, and just to share your life just in a very organic way, and just to feel as comfortable as you need to feel today. As we get into this moment, into this chat, I wanted to start off by just asking you just to share with us a little bit about your background, kind of where you came up, kind of maybe, your family dynamics. Just give us a little flavor of just how you came to be, and, what were maybe, some of those early stage moments in your life that started to lead you down the path of what we'll really start to dig into a little later on in today's conversation.
Sure, of course. I'd love to start there. I also want to thank you for inviting me to your podcast. I love the work that you're doing and the theme around possibilities. That's definitely been a kind of thread in my personal life and in my career. So I am one of those kids who wanted to be just like their father. My father was a professor.
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't so much interested in academia, but I love the idea that he had summers off. So I thought that seems
Mm-hmm.
like a really nice lifestyle. You teach a couple
Right.
classes a week, you get to write, you get to read, you get summers off. So I did pursue that, pretty straightforward through college and graduate school, and I got my PhD in political science and international studies. When I finished that, I actually wasn't sure if I wanted to go into academia. And I had the fortune of meeting a recruiter who was recruiting for some federal government roles. And
Mm.
so I moved into the CIA, actually, as an analyst,
Wow.
right out of graduate school.
Okay.
It was really interesting. It focused a lot on the work that I'd already done, but what I really took away from that was an ability to take a lot of information, synthesize it, share it with people, explain it in simple language, right, in simple terms, because not everyone knows what you know, right? And I think
That's
if
right. That's
you're,
right.
if you're trying to explain something to someone and they don't get it, that's on you. You have to keep trying, keep adjusting, right? Change the way you're communicating until they
Mm-hmm.
understand. So that's the kind of work that I did from then on as a consultant with Booz Allen and PwC. I focused on change management, which I like to say is just helping people do the things they say they want to do but aren't doing, right? So we all have those things in our lives.
Come
We all
on.
have those
All
in
right.
our lives where we say, I want to do this thing, but you look around and you're like, why aren't you doing it? Right. And that's where I come in.
Mm-hmm.
What's the obstacle? What's in your way? Right. What's the challenge that you're facing so that we can line those things up? Maybe you don't actually want to do that thing and you're right, but you're telling
Mm-hmm.
yourself you do. But I think more often than not, people really do want to do the important things in their lives and they just need a little help. So that's what brought me here. I've been doing the work on my own for about a year or so as an
Okay.
independent consultant, supporting nonprofits, small businesses, startups, a lot of strategy work, thought partnership. I'm a problem solver, and so
Wow.
that's what I bring to this work around legacy planning.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's really where, where the bulk of our conversation today will be, this concept, right? Cuz it's fresh to me. It's and that's one of the reasons that I love podcasting and I love meeting new people, because each person represents a brilliant idea in and of themselves. Like literally, you are a brilliant idea, and then you carry and you manifest and you bring about these brilliant ideas. And so, legacy planning is something that, for the audience, guys, I'm on the same journey as you today. I'm leaning in today to learn today just as much as you are, because it's a concept, doctor, that I've never heard of, I never knew existed. And so I would love for you to take us back before you kind of unpack it for us and really start to reveal what it is. Take us back to the earliest moments maybe of motivation, right? Because everything starts with some spark of genius, something motivated you, something set you off, something said, hey, you need to do this. So
Yeah.
what were those things? What were those events, those moments in your life that got you to this point, where now you invest in helping people to develop this legacy plan?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was in December of 2020. So I
Okay.
know the beginning of the pandemic seems like a long time ago, but
Wow.
um,
Yes.
yeah, December of 2020, two of my family members passed away. So these are my sister's in-laws, her father-in-law and her sister-in-law. But for a little
Mhm.
context, my sister was married when I was 6. There's a big age gap. So these are people that I've known, my whole life, right? They were kind of my
Right.
grandfather and my aunt. They passed
Mm.
away on the same day, a week before
Mm.
Christmas. So my sister and her husband were dealing with all the aftermath. If anyone has had a death in the family, there are things you have to handle the next day, right? Or the same
Mhm.
day. So while they were handling the logistics of the memorial and the funeral and, receiving people in their home in the midst of COVID, right? So you're trying to keep
Right.
distance, you're trying to, mask up and be safe, but you're also trying to mourn and grieve. My sister was calling me like, we don't know where he banked, or we don't know if he had life insurance, or we don't
Mm.
know if she made plans for her kids. Like, you're the researcher in the family. Can you help me figure out how can I how can I,
Wow.
unpack this or figure out where these things are? And,
Right.
this went on for months and months and months. So when things kind of settled down, maybe a year or so later, my sister and I were talking about it, and she's like, there's got to be a better way.
Mhm.
Why didn't we have a plan? Why didn't we talk about what they wanted? Why didn't we know what they wanted?
Right.
One of the most heartbreaking things for me in watching them kind of deal with it is when you don't know what someone wants, you do the best that you can, right? If people
Right.
are
Right.
parents or siblings, right? You don't always know what
Mhm.
your spouse wants, but you're going to do the best that you can. But in the
Mhm.
case of a death, you have a lot of opinions. Well, they wouldn't
Yeah.
have wanted that, right? Well, how do you know that they wanted to be cremated? Or how do you know that that's what they wanted to do with their stuff? And those
Mhm.
doubts are so painful, right? Because everyone is
Mhm.
trying to do the best that they can. And you think to yourself, man, if I had just asked that person what they wanted,
Yeah.
right, I wouldn't be in this situation. If I just knew
Mhm.
that they wanted flowers, right, I could make this
Right.
decision with some confidence, and I could tell all those other
Exactly.
people, no, I know what they wanted, right? They told
Uh-huh.
me,
Right.
and this is what they're doing. Oh, and by the way, are you paying for it? But that's another story.
Right.
So,
Right.
so it was really through that direct experience of trying to uncover and discover kind of what they wanted and realizing that we had no idea and that we hadn't had these conversations. And my sister saying, there's got to be a better way, that I put on my research hat and I said, okay, what is this about? I have my will, my partner has his will, but I had no idea what the rest of the universe looked like. I didn't know if this was common, if this was something that people did, if this was something that we talked about or we didn't talk about. And I found out a lot. I did research for about a year, figuring out kind of what the state of this is.
So one of the things that we want to better understand in terms of that readiness, because what I was hearing in everything that you were saying is that the value is in the readiness
Hmm.
on the logistics, readiness financially, readiness emotionally. Like, I'm going through a lot. You're going to pile on emotionally when you don't know where the pieces of the puzzle fit.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of, well, you know what? Let's start with kind of first breaking up before we start getting into how people respond and react and kind of what they feel. Go ahead and break down for us exactly what a legacy plan is or what legacy planning is. And then I have a couple of questions around how people move and operate within this process, because I think that's going to be important in terms of how people regulate and how people are able to better manage themselves and better manage the moment. But first, what literally is a legacy plan?
So I think the simplest way to think about a legacy plan is how you want to share your wishes, share your wealth, and be
Hmm.
celebrated and remembered. So
Hmm.
if you were to Google legacy planning today, you're going to see financial planners and estate planners and write a will and make a trust and get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Those are all things that we need to get to.
Hmm.
Absolutely. But today, where most people are, and mind you, 70% of people have done nothing in this space, that's overwhelming.
It
And
is.
so, what I have found is just starting with, how do you want to share your wishes? How do you want to share your wealth? And I think of wealth as a lot of things, right? In addition to money.
Hmm.
How do you want to be remembered? And how do you want to be celebrated? That to me is legacy planning. And there's lots of ways that we can do it. You can start from where you are. You don't have to go from zero to a lawyer, right? There's small things you can do. There's conversations you can have with your husband, with your wife, with your partner, with your kids, right? With your best friend. And you can work your way up to a complete legacy plan that does bring in a lawyer, right? That does bring in a financial planner that maybe is thinking about real estate, and other more complicated things. But we have to start somewhere. And the fact that most of us don't get started at all means that we have a lot of work to do. The
That's right.
system as it's constructed isn't working for most of us. It's not speaking to us. I love how you broke it down with it's emotional, it's financial, it's,
Yeah.
interpersonal. There's a lot of components to it. And the traditional
Mhm.
way of thinking about legacy planning isn't for us. And so that's how I approach it, as simple as possible, but with some cultural sensitivity.
Yeah.
Not everyone wants to talk about money. Not everybody feels comfortable talking about money,
Right.
right? I've heard,
That's
oh,
right.
you want a budget on my death, right? Or,
Wow.
people
Wow.
are a little superstitious, and that's okay. Come as you are, come with those fears and those concerns, right? And we will still find the right steps for you to make a plan, and to share your wishes and your wealth in the way that feels right for you.
That's right. I'm hearing, because this is so powerful, because it's something that I've not really taken a hard fast look at. I have a financial, I guess you want to call him partner, but really a mentor that took me under his wing many years ago and taught me the whole financial game and kind of taught our family how to get, you know, healthy I like the word healthy, financially. And we've talked about, putting together a will in the traditional sense. Um, but your approach and the concept of a legacy plan, I think, A, the word legacy means so much more than just, oh, we just need to create a will. Like
Right.
creating a will necessarily isn't very inspiring.
Yeah, it's
But
it's boring,
right, yeah,
It's
create a will. It's
yeah,
another to do, right?
exactly. It's a
But
task. Yeah, you can download a free will today and fill it out.
wow, yeah, it's like no
But people don't
inspiration, no
do it.
motivation. No, people don't do
Yeah.
it. No, and just listening to everything that you were saying, it's like I think, and I want to hear, you kind of break it down in terms of the legacy. To me, what I was hearing as you were sharing was, this is my opportunity to really be a blessing to my loved ones. It's me setting them up. It's really a form of service to them, right? Because it's like
Absolutely.
almost, and I don't want to go negative, but it's almost kind of selfish that if you know about this and you don't do it, it's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna die and y'all just take care of it. It's like,
Yeah.
nah, man, be responsible. It's still your life, so be responsible even through and on to death. Like, this is still your life, so be responsible. What's your take on that? I mean, because again, I got a million questions now flowing through my head, but what's your take on those that are watching, those that are listening, in terms of your responsibility? Because this isn't the children or the family doing this for the person. From what I'm hearing, it's the person stepping up and saying, I'm going to create this so that I can be a blessing to those that I leave behind.
Totally. So I like to think about it in a couple different ways because everyone is
Okay.
approaching it, right, from different lenses. Some
Yeah.
people get inspired to do this because there's a death, right, in the family. And they
Hmm.
see what I like to call the trauma and the drama that
Hmm.
comes after someone has passed away. And they say, oh no, I can't do this to my kids, right? Or I can't do this to my family. I love it. That's your motivation, right? Let's take
Yeah.
it and run with it.
Yeah.
Some people are motivated by what I call life and love and legacy. They say,
Mm.
I have worked so hard to build this business,
Yes.
right? Or to save this money, or to invest in real estate, that I want my kids, or I want my grandkids, or I want my community, right, to benefit from this work moving forward. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Why would you hide that light under a bushel, right? Let people know that that's what you
Hmm.
want, to happen, and that's how you want
Right.
things to move forward. And then there's another group, which you already named, of people who are like, I'll be dead. I don't care what happens, right?
Right.
After I'm gone, and that's
Yep.
kind of the hardest group to kind of get through because you just have to ask a lot of questions like, okay, you're not going to
Hmm.
be here, but how do you want your family to go on without you? And this
Yeah.
idea that, oh, it'll all work out, oh, it'll be okay, I like to bring them and say, okay, well, let's talk about what that can look like if you don't do anything today.
Yeah.
Do you
Mm.
realize that the state has a plan for you if you don't have a plan? The
Yep.
state will decide how your money gets divided. First, it'll be frozen before it goes to court,
Mm.
right? Then the court will decide based on the law who gets what and how much they get. And they'll try to pay off your debts. And anybody can come from the street saying, oh, you owe me money, or oh, you didn't pay this, right? And your family's going to have to pay an attorney. Your family's going to have to sort through it. And that's just what your family knows about. What
That's
if you
right.
have accounts that for some reason your family doesn't know about? What if you bought
Yeah.
an insurance policy that your family doesn't know about? Right? What if you've
Mm.
been socking away savings that your family doesn't know about? They
Right.
may not even have access to it, right? Because they're
Wow.
unaware. So, do you want all the efforts that you've put into building your life to
Hmm.
just get pulled apart by your family, by the courts, by
Mm.
people claiming, right, that you owe something? It's really chaotic. I think once people start thinking about that, like, oh, I thought it would just go to my wife. Not necessarily,
Right.
and not without a fight. And then,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
right. And not without some money and a lawyer and some court fees. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. So getting people to think a little bit beyond themselves, and be a little bit less. selfish. I hope that's not too harsh for your audience, but a
No.
little bit a little more selfless, to say,
Mm,
I want to do this so that my family is better off. We talk a lot about wealth building and building generational wealth, in the Black community. And this should be a part of that. This is not separate from that. I don't come in telling
that's right.
people, oh, you should leave your money to your kids. If you want to leave your money to your church, that's wonderful. If you want to leave your
Yeah.
money to a small business, that's great too, right? It's just about being explicit and being clear and being direct and making sure that, your wishes are known. That's all. I really think that that's all that people want when their family members pass away. They want the peace of mind to say, I know what Auntie so and so wanted. I know what my father wanted, and we're going to do this. And then we're going to use the rest of that time to celebrate.
There you go.
Imagine
There you
someone
go.
passes away and all you have to do is celebrate and
Wow.
remember, right? And
Yep.
have a home going. You're not worried about who gets this or who
Yes.
gets this. People aren't fighting over the dishes, right? You just
Wow.
know. You just
Yes.
know. And you get to, really, really sit in that love for them,
Hmm. Hmm.
and what they left behind. That's my dream for people, is
Mm.
that all we have are celebrations from here on out because everything else is known.
Wow. Wow. Listen,
See, I get
I
excited about it, right? And
yeah,
I
I'm
never use
wow.
the T word. I never use the death word. I rarely use the death word because that's gets people down. I'm like, no, this is about life. This is about
It
love.
is.
This is about legacy, right? We can get excited about that.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you sell without knowing that you're selling, but oh my goodness. That was the best sales pitch, non-sales pitch, like of all time, because what you
Oh,
were doing, no, it was phenomenal, right? Because again, I'm a novice. I don't know anything about this, and I'm hearing this firsthand, my first time, and what I'm everything that you just shared got me personally excited about doing this for my family because what I'm hearing it in it is a vision. And I
mhm.
think that you have such a unique and such a powerful approach to the inevitable, to the thing that no one likes to talk about, no one likes to deal with, no one likes to see coming. But when you, with just a simple tweak of perspective, you're taking something and saying, look at the gift not only can you give, but look at the vision. Because as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking she has the privilege, the honor, the blessing to help people have that kind of vision, for themselves and for their family. So no, I just think that that's a very innovative approach, to such a hard and difficult event, moment, and season in someone's life. And I just thank God for you. And I just thank God for your innovation and for your imagination, um, and your ability to articulate that in that way, because it does help a person to literally create a vision of celebration. And it takes the stress, because I've been a part of that. I've been fortunate enough to not experience a lot of deaths personally in my family, but I've been a part of funerals and moments where we are fighting over the silliest of things. And it's getting ugly. And it's like this small, it matters this much, but because they lack clarity, they lack the order, they lack that person's like you said, their wishes. It creates a breeding ground for chaos. And a moment that should be, like you said, celebrated, it becomes a moment where we're actually tearing each other further apart. Um,
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Let me shut up
Yeah.
because I can,
No.
because man, you got me excited. So let me zip it here. So let me ask you. Let me ask you. All that you just said, right? One of the questions that we want to dive into is, why is legacy planning so hard to do? Now I'm even more curious to know the answer to that question, being the picture that you just painted for us. How can it be hard for me to do this knowing what it's providing?
So it's going to sound simplistic. I think it comes
Okay.
down to one thing for most
Okay.
people: fear. Now, fear can look like a lot of different things. It can look like fear of the unknown. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. Why should I do this now when I don't know what's going to happen 10,
Mm.
20, hopefully live a long life, right? 50 years from now.
Yeah.
Or fear of doing the wrong thing. Well, if I leave my money to so and so, well, they might be mad at me. It might cause more chaos, right, than I want. And
Oh.
then last, fear of death. People, we are a death denying culture. We have really
Wow.
lost the ability over time to communicate about something that is natural and inevitable and frankly
Mm.
shouldn't be that scary. But because we aren't a culture that talks about it anymore, we don't want to
Yep.
plan for it. We don't want to think
Yep.
about it. And this goes into healthcare, right? End of life healthcare decisions, hospice, right? Things like that. We're not
Mm.
around it. We're not as intergenerational as we used to be, right? We used
Mm.
to take care of elderly parents, elderly
Yeah.
grandparents. We used to see what end of life, looks like. Um, and it felt more natural, right? More inevitable. But we're really distant from that now. In the same way that is a funny little stat, in the same way that there are more first-time parents who've never changed a diaper before they have kid. Can you imagine? I mean, I grew up with a lot of cousins, so right, we were changing diapers.
Wow.
Um, I
Yeah.
think I think it's the same on the other end. There are people who don't experience a death close up
Mm-hmm.
until it's maybe their parents, right? Or their
Wow.
grandparents, or they've never been to a funeral, right? Or they've never
Mm-hmm.
been to a memorial, right? We're very distant from it. So I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of fear around the topic. There's a fear around making a bad decision. And
Mm.
there's a fear of not being enough, sort of not knowing what you have to leave behind, not understanding
Yeah.
your cultural wealth, your spiritual wealth, your
Mm.
financial wealth. That is
Wow.
that is wealth. It's not just a condo, a house, a car, money.
Right.
Yeah, it's important to get those things straight, but you have so much more to give. And I think there's fear that, well, why should I do it? I don't really have enough,
Mm.
and that this process is just going to reveal that I don't have enough. And I'm scared
Oh
of
my
that.
goodness.
And I'm
Wow.
like, you are enough. That's where we start. And so that's part of the process as well, is helping people overcome,
Mm.
that fear of not being enough.
That's a great answer. I mean, I never would have thought about that. Yeah, it's just wow. Yeah, people. Yeah, that's that. I know that would totally derail the conversation and take us on a different path, but my goodness, the fear
We can have
element.
a part two, because I
There
know
we go. Yeah,
this is part of the work that
right.
you do about, what's
It
possible,
is. My
right? And
goodness,
and what
yes.
holds us back from what's possible is fear.
Yeah, I don't want people to know I don't. But see, this is what's awesome about what you do, though.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm all about perspective, right? This is the place where possibilities become the perspective, because I just believe in the power of perspective. Someone will come to you and say, I don't have enough. And
Mhm.
through your brilliance and through your brilliant techniques, you're able to say, you're looking at it through a very small, narrow lens. Your wealth
Exactly.
is not what's in your wealth is not, determined only solely by what's in your bank account.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That's
And I love
amazing.
the work because we then talk about photo albums. I had this one client last year,
Ooh.
and she'd already started the conversation with her daughter. She had a will,
Yeah.
but she was going through a divorce. So she was, thinking what needs to change. And I
Okay.
said, let's talk about things you have in your home, right? And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
I have pictures, I have this. I said, your photo albums. Do your daughters know who's in those photo albums? And she's like, I do, but I don't know that they do. And I said, have
Mm-hmm.
you labeled them? She's like, well, some. I was like, that sounds like a project that you get to do with your daughters, and that's part of your
Wow.
legacy. Now
Wow.
they're going to know their relatives, their cousins, going as far back as you know. That's wealth.
It
That
is.
is cultural wealth. That is family history, right? That's what people want to leave behind. And that's what I try to
Mm.
bring to the fore, to say that's valuable.
It is.
Your kids and her grandkids in this case are going to look back and say, wow, grandma did this for us. And now we
Mm.
know where we come from.
Wow. And even as I'm listening to that, what's so powerful about it, I cannot overstate it enough. I know that word, we throw that word powerful around so much, but when you leave that kind, right? Because like you said, there's different kinds of wealth. When you leave that kind of wealth, I mean, money does what it does. It's it's needed, and we leverage it for all kinds of things. But one thing that I've learned in my journey of going from little to much financially is that when I got to much, I still didn't have what I thought I was going to have, because what I really wanted, again, I'm not discrediting finances, but it don't do the trick for what we're really after. And I think the more that you help people to see that it's those intangibles, those things that we're able to hold within our hearts,
Mhm.
can really influence long term. Um, yeah, yeah, that's well, I mean, you're opening up so much, and I'm trying to process it real time because I haven't been exposed to a new idea in a long time that just really makes me go in and say, man, there's something for me to do here. There's something for me to
Yeah,
do here.
yeah.
And that's what you're doing right now. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
And
trying to
that's
hold it.
why I
Yeah,
enjoy this work. It sits with
man,
people differently, but
it
everyone has
does.
a story, everyone has an example, everyone is like, "Oh, yeah, when so and so passed away, it was really hard for this reason." Or in my case, when
Mm,
my sister aunt passed away, we lost family recipes, and we didn't even think about it until she was gone. But she did the sweet potato pie, she did the potato salad, right? And she got that from her
mm,
mother, who had already passed away. And we
man,
thought, gosh, if we had just recorded her in the kitchen the last Thanksgiving, we would have had a
yeah.
video, right? And that's what I love
Oh,
about this work. It doesn't have to be formal. You
mm,
can take out your phone and say, hey, Mom, tell me how
yeah.
you make this, right? Or record
Right.
your mother looking through the photo album and say, who is this? Who is this? Can you tell me how these
Mm,
people are related to us, right? Or record your aunts and uncles telling what they know about the family history or the family gossip, right? It can be fun, it
right.
can be light, but these are things that you're going to wish that
Right.
you had, when they're gone. And that's part of the legacy, that we're trying to build. And the reason why I like to start with some of those things is because it opens the conversation. And then you can get to the more challenging conversations around money, around real
Yeah.
estate, right? Around who gets what. But I think if you get more comfortable with just saying, hey, we want to record this, Mom, because we want to know after you're
Mm,
gone, then you can get on to the next conversation. Mom, have you thought about who you want to get your house, when you're gone? But you can't go from 0 to 100, in my
no.
experience. Most people
Right.
can't go from never talking about it to
Mm-hmm.
what you're going to do with your house when you're dead, right? That's
Right.
that's too much of a leap, right, for people.
Right.
So we have to take some baby steps because again, I was talking
Right.
about, we're kind of a death denying culture because it's not
Mm-hmm.
part of, our culture, our cultural conversation. I
Yeah.
break it down into baby steps. What are the conversations we can have? What are the ways we can think about wealth that's more expansive? And then
Mm-hmm.
work your way up to thinking about beneficiaries, right? Thinking about who gets
Yes.
what, and eventually getting to a point where you're ready to talk
Mm.
to a lawyer. I mean, I don't think there's anything worse than talking to a paid professional. It can be a lawyer or anyone else you've hired, and you don't know what you want. I think we've all been there, and you're like,
Oh.
you see the
Oh
clock
my
ticking,
gosh.
and you're like, what am I supposed to
Right.
be doing here? What, what? And they're just right.
Mm.
You just see the money going out your pocket because you're not prepared. You don't
Right.
know what you're supposed to be doing. So I think it's so unfair that we expect people to just go straight to a lawyer for a
Mm.
will or for estate planning when we haven't done any preparation. We haven't done any education. We haven't thought for ourselves,
Mm.
what is it that we want?
That's right. Can a person that has a current, so if a person already has a will, like
Mm-hmm.
it is a will, and they've gone the traditional route, they've literally done a will, can
Mm-hmm.
they parlay that information into a legacy plan, or do they just redo it? Like, How would
So
that work?
I'm not a lawyer, and I should make that
Huh.
disclaimer. What
Oh,
I
sure,
what
sure.
I suggest to people is if you already have a will, great.
Yeah.
You are in the 30% of people, right, who have
Oh,
done that work. But what I
okay.
find is sometimes missing from a will, I like to call it like a letter of love. So a will can cover everything, right? It can say,
Oh.
I want my money to go to this person, I want my house to go to this person, and I want everything else in my estate to be
Mm-hmm.
decided by my wife. So that would be your clothes, your shoes, your
Mm.
dishes, all the little intangible or
Okay.
tangible, but things that may not have value. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where you can write a letter of love. So what people
Oh.
sometimes do to accompany a will is you
Hmm.
might say, I have a Jordan shoe collection, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that my brother-in-law would love to have those because he's the same size as me, right?
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
I've got photo albums, and I know that my sister likes to keep track of family history. So it doesn't have to live in the will, but you can write a
Oh.
letter to your loved
Okay.
ones and say, right, this is
Hmm.
what I'd like for you to have, right? Or you can write a letter to your spouse and say, this is how I want to be remembered. This is how I want to be celebrated. There's lots of different tools that you can
Oh,
use
okay.
and like templates you can use to just make
Hmm.
that will a little richer.
Oh, okay.
And because we said wills can be kind of boring and
Mm-hmm.
straightforward. It's this person gets this and this person gets that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of things in between that the will doesn't talk about explicitly. And that's where you can just speak directly to your family or to your loved ones to say, these are my wishes. This is what I want. This is how I want you to remember me, or to celebrate me. So it's
Gotcha.
great. Have a will. If you think you can
Okay.
go from zero to a will, please do. I feel
Okay.
like, there are some people
Okay.
that just need that little kick to say, "Oh yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I know
just
what
get it going.
I just go do it." And then
Right.
once you have that in place, you can come back and have those conversations because having a will that sits on the shelf that no one
Mm-hmm.
knows about or that, no one has been a part of, I'll
Right.
I'll just say that it hits differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's much more of it's a surprise, right?
It
When
is.
it's time to open up that will. And I think that can not do damage, but that can be hard for people. It's not that people will
Mm-hmm.
disagree with what's in your will, but I think it's important to think about who should be part of this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Your partner, your friend, your kids. You should tell them, in my opinion, what you've decided. Not because you necessarily want their opinion or you're going to change your mind, but
Right.
so that they can prepare. We talked about preparing emotionally, right, for what's
Yeah.
coming.
Mm. So does a yeah, because you bring up so many good points. Does would a legacy plan in and of itself, so say I'm the guy who has no will.
Okay.
If I were to sit down with you, um and I were to pay for your services, once we've gone from end to end, would what you provide me cover the basis of a will? So like basically, can I do a legacy plan and not
Mhm.
need a will?
No,
Okay.
because the will is your legal document
Mm-hmm.
that will, and depends on the state. Sometimes you need it notarized, sometimes you need it notarized in witnesses, but that is the legal
Okay.
document that your family will be able to say, this is exactly what he wanted. So
Okay.
my work is helping people get to the point where they're ready to write the will, either on their own
Okay.
or with a lawyer. So there's 3 steps in the work that I
Mm.
do. The first
Okay.
step is starting the conversation, which is what you and I are doing here today, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, we're getting familiar with the concepts. I
Yeah.
have conversation starters. If you're like, I really want to talk to my wife, I'm just not really sure how to start. We'll role play it. We'll game it out. We'll say, what could this
Right.
conversation look like, right? Or I want to talk to my kids, but they don't ever want to talk about me dying, right? We'll talk about it. We'll figure out what that's like. So we start with a
Right.
conversation. And then we move into redefining your wealth. So we've talked about that as well. So
Okay.
yes, I don't need to know how much is in your bank account. I assure people, I don't need to know if it's
Mm-hmm.
$0 or $1 million. But we
Okay.
talk about your financial accounts, where they are, you start making a list, and then we talk about all the other kinds of wealth. Do you keep the family recipes? Do you know the family history? Do you have
Mm,
heirlooms that are important to you? What is it culturally, historically, within your family that you value and that you think your family would value once we're gone? And then we
mm,
make a list because
right.
one thing that happens when people pass away is the family doesn't know where to find anything. So maybe you
Mm,
have a life insurance policy, but if
mm-hmm.
people don't know where that policy is or who you got that policy from, life insurance
Yep.
isn't calling your house every month to say, "Hey, are you still alive? Do do we need to
That's
pay
right.
out the policy?" Right? It's almost
That's
impossible
right.
to track that down. So even
Mm-hmm.
just having a list of I bank at Bank of America and Liberty Mutual holds my life insurance policy and Geico covers my car and my
Mm,
mortgage is, et cetera. Just having that list goes a really long way to helping your
mm.
family when you're gone. And then the last piece, which is a little more challenging, it gets a little more challenging
Yeah.
as we go, is naming your beneficiaries. So,
Okay.
naming your
Yeah.
beneficiaries in your financial accounts, it's something you can do that is called transferable on death. So, that means that if you don't make it to the point of having a will, but you've named your
Mm-hmm.
beneficiaries in your bank accounts, in your retirement account, they go right to the person that you've designated without having to go
Mm.
to court or without having to go to probate. And most people
Okay.
don't take the time to do that. You probably get
Mm.
alerts from your bank or your accounts. Hey, have you named your beneficiaries yet? And you just delete that and you're like, I'll do it later. But it's really important to do that on your way to creating a will. So that's where I start with people. And then
Yeah.
after the time is spent with me, I hope that they're a little more confident, right? They're a little more educated. They've given these things some thought. Maybe they've made that
Yeah.
first list. Because here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, if all you do is those 3 steps, you are still putting your family in a 10 times better position than if you hadn't done anything,
Wow.
right?
You
Because
know
like
it.
I said in the beginning, most people don't have anything.
Nope.
You're gone and your family's just like, well, right, that's why we see so many GoFundMe funerals, right? That's why we see so many
Yes.
Cash App funerals. It's not
Yes.
because these people don't have cash, it's because the cash is frozen because there weren't any conversations, there weren't any decisions made. And then the state freezes your assets until your family goes to court, right?
Oh
So
goodness.
just doing these 3 steps will put your family in a much better position, right, to deal
Mm.
with those things when you're gone. But I hope that people then continue, right, on their way to a legacy plan that includes a will. In some cases, it
Mm.
might include a trust, and more complicated things. But I try to get people to that step where they can sit in front of a lawyer and say, okay, I'm ready. This is how I want to do it.
Absolutely. My goodness. Yes. As you were speaking, I was like making a list of all the like if it was like an Instagram post or something.
Yeah,
10 reasons that 10
right.
things that by getting a legacy plan that you're going to avoid. No one
Exactly.
likes to go to court. No one likes this. No one likes it's like, oh my God, it's so
Yeah.
valuable. It's so valuable. So excuse me, why would a person need, and perhaps you may be, I mean, I feel maybe you've already kind of covered a little bit of it just through your sharing, because I can definitely see why someone would need some help here. But
Mhm.
specifically, why would a person need a coach in this legacy planning process?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest. I don't know for certain. I am
Hmm.
totally comfortable as an entrepreneur saying I am still figuring this out. Right. So
Yeah,
the first
yeah.
year I started this, I told you I did a lot of research just to get myself educated about, where people are in this. And then year two, I said maybe people need workshops. Maybe people want to like work this
Mm.
out in a webinar setting or in a group setting, where they can watch me
Wow.
explain it, and then maybe they'll go
Sure.
on their own. Look, that didn't get me anywhere. Okay.
Mm.
What I learned through
Okay.
that, one, it's very personal and private. People don't necessarily want to be in a group setting to discuss this. I
Right.
get that.
Okay.
And two, even though I thought I was breaking it down in a kind of simple way, it still felt overwhelming to people. So I said,
Oh.
okay, feedback received. Let me
Okay.
try
All
something
right.
else. So this is year 3, And in year three, I'm doing the coaching, the one-on-one coaching. And we'll see.
Ah,
We'll see. I'm
yeah.
doing the one-on-one coaching, but I'm also having conversations like this because what I realized in year one and year two, the person who finally came back to me as a coach, she probably interacted with me or my website or my content a dozen
Mm,
times before she was
okay.
ready to have
Uh-huh.
that conversation. So
Yeah.
this isn't something that people are going to hear once on the radio and be like, "Oh yeah, I need to do that." No, it's too personal,
Mm,
right? It's too sensitive. They're going to need many, many interactions. So I'm trying
mm,
to get myself out in more conversations like this to plant the seed. I'm trying to
yeah.
up my social media game a little bit to plant the seed, right? I have a
Hmm.
newsletter, but I realize it's going to take people
Right.
time to really understand the concepts. And I mentioned earlier, it's some for some people it takes a
Hmm.
trigger. So it can be a death, but it could also be a birth.
Yep.
It can be, being a new
Yep.
parent. It could be a new job. It could be you get a raise. It could be you start a business. It could be your business grows, right? There's
Right.
lots of things that prompt people to say, oh yeah, what was that thing that I read about or heard about? And I got to be in people's minds. I
Exactly.
realize, right, for them to come back to me.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
that's where I am in year three. We will see. We'll
All
see
right.
how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense though. Yeah, yeah. Like coach me through this thing because that group session ain't ain't working. But
Yeah.
no, but that's so powerful that you got the feedback loops. And it's one thing to get the feedback loop and then ignore it and just get all, nope, this is how I'm gonna do it. And no, but you took
Oh,
it
I
and,
was
and
stubborn
you
for a little
you
bit, but
learned.
yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
I learned. I came out of it and I said, okay, let me just give people what they're asking for and see how
Yeah.
it goes.
Cool. So at, we're kind of at the point where we
Thank
want
you.
to start to kind of wrap it up, but a few more quick questions because I'm just enjoying this conversation and just enjoying learning about this new thing and like I said, let's call this part one because there are some other things that I think even from a holistic perspective, what you're doing can really add value just to the overall person because it brings up so many other things and layers of things that we deal with internally that we can get some deliverance. I think that what you're doing can be a vehicle, to bring about some healing and
Yeah.
some facing of fears and facing of internal challenges. Um, One question I had selfishly, so reading your website and going through your mission statement, um, I was like, okay, I I don't know. It's something about boldness. It's something about boldness, and I've acknowledged that I need some of it in some areas when you really drill down to who you're serving and what you're doing and how you're contributing to the world. In your mission statement, I didn't write the whole statement out, but just the first portion. 1 million Black Americans. Why black? Why black specifically? That's a bold
I
statement to make.
it is. And I went back and forth and I
Yeah.
waffled. I come from a family that is very mixed.
Okay.
And I thought, and my nature is I want to help everybody. I want everybody to win, right? I want to serve
Exactly.
everybody, but this wouldn't leave me. And I kept coming back to,
Wow.
but my community needs this the most. When a house is on fire on the street, you're not like, well, everybody needs water. You put out the house
Mm.
that's on fire. And I don't mean it to seem so
Wow.
dramatic, but when we talk about
Hmm.
Black
Yeah.
wealth, family wealth going down to $0 in the next 30, 40, 50 years, this is one of the pieces.
Mm.
I love that we are more
Yeah.
clued in about spending our money right in our communities and
Hmm.
supporting Black businesses and supporting Black women who are building Black businesses. But that's the front end.
Hmm.
The end of it is what do we do with our wealth? And what do we do
Yes.
with our wealth when we've
Yes.
passed on? And we're not talking
Hmm.
about that piece. We could accumulate all the wealth that we need for our communities, But if it gets frozen, if it gets stuck in probate, if if it gets,
Mm-hmm.
peeled off by debtors, then what have we really built? And so I just thought I need to focus on my community, the Black community, because we need this the most. And something I haven't mentioned yet, one reason I
Yeah.
get passionate about this work is because
Yeah.
in the US, where so many things feel divided across race and class and income,
Mm-hmm.
legacy planning is one of the few things that nobody does. How many
Mm.
stories do we know about celebrities, Prince, right, not having a
Mm.
will when he died?
Wow.
We know aunts and uncles who didn't have a will, grandparents who didn't have a will, doctors, lawyers, right? The most educated,
Right.
well-resourced people. There is
Yep.
something in it. Again, I think it's fear
Yeah.
that prevents them from doing what they know they need to do.
Mm.
So this is something that transcends race, class, income. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how educated you are, how many resources you have. There is still something that is keeping people stuck and not doing this
Mm-hmm.
work. And I say, you know what? Let me focus on my community because it's the community
Yeah.
that I know best. We have our own
That's,
particular fears. We have our own
yeah.
particular superstitions. We have our own particular
Mm-hmm.
way of talking about this or not talking about it. My long-term vision is that I can create kind of this work in a way that is culturally sensitive for other communities,
Oh,
right? And
okay.
I've started to do a
Wow.
little research on that, right? But the way Latinos talk about it is going to be different than the way Asian Americans talk about it. And, the way
That's
that they
true.
plan and what's valuable for them is going to be different. So I would love it to get to that point. But for now, no,
Mm.
we need to focus on what we have and what we are growing and what we are building for the future. We
Right.
can't talk about generational wealth if we're not talking about how we pass on that wealth.
Mm. That's a statement. That's a statement. That's a statement right there. Yeah. Yeah. That's a tagline. That's a no, I'm so whoa, that was major. Yeah. Because we always throwing it out there. Generational wealth, generational wealth. Yeah, but you can't talk about it unless you're talking about how you're gonna pass it on. How is it going to get to the next and the next and the next and wow. Is there anything because as a podcast host you can drill a person all day long with a million questions and just what you want to know and hope that the audience also wants to know those same things. But is there anything that you want to share? And it doesn't have to even be about legacy planning. It can just be something on your heart, just something that you just want to get off your chest. You just want to vent a little bit. You just want to love on people a little bit. Is there anything that you just want to share because you just want to share it? I want to give you that space as well.
Yeah, gosh, there's so much I want to share. I mean, I think what's on my heart and what attracted me to reaching out to you for your podcast and the work that you do is helping men claim their space in this work.
Mm,
Um, Women tend to be the caretakers both at the beginning of life, right, and the end of life. Women tend to be the ones shepherding the funeral or the memorial service or even cleaning out the house. But there is a space for men to do this work, not only for themselves and for their families and for the next generation, but to support women in the way that women are already or often, doing this work. And
mm,
so even though I am approaching it from a female lens, because that's, what I am, I don't want it to seem like this work is just for women because it feels like that's the way that it's been.
yeah.
It it's been that way for a lot of reasons that we don't have time to get to get into. But I think that women are looking for the protectors and providers of their families to step in and
Mhm.
support them in this work. So, men, I'm talking to you. There's a
Yes.
place for you in this. There's a
Yes.
place for you to do it for yourself. There's a place for you to do it with your partners, with your
Mm,
kids, with your family. Because I know that that's the legacy that people want to leave, for the future. So,
mhm.
that's something that I'm thinking about a lot. And,
Yeah.
I would love to have that kind of partnership. I mean, I have that personal partnership with my spouse,
Yeah.
but I would love to think more about how I bring couples together
Mm,
to talk about this work for their families.
absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you. And it's such a reminder to us as men. And yeah, as a man, that's one thing I'm very conscious of and aware of the need within my relationship to not allow my wife to shoulder what society and what the culture says is her job or her role. We get to make we get to make up the rules. We get to
Exactly.
make up what life is.
Hmm.
So, I thank you for that because, I can say it all day long. And, sometimes, a particular audience or group, they get tired of your voice because you're the one that's always saying it. But when someone else says it, it's like, oh, yeah, maybe I do need to step up and step in, to that position. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, listen, I just want to thank you so much for just sharing in this moment, sharing in this space, sharing your life, sharing your legacy, sharing what you have started, what you're doing, what you will continue to do. I do hope and pray, for not for this not to kind of be the drop off, but that there will be a part two, because that there are so many other things that I would love to unpack and just hear your perspective on. You have such great perspective. You're so articulate. You have such an approach to life and such an approach to business and approach to caring. Everyone, people can say I care, I love, or whatnot, but it's really, even as I recently discovered, they say that it's I think it's 97% of all communication is nonverbal.
Hmm.
It's like what you do that
Yeah.
matters. So yeah, so I would love to get into some more of those things with you and, break down some more things. But I just do want to thank you so much for your time, for your effort, for your expertise, for your vision, for your boldness. Um, it inspires me to rewrite some things that have been on my heart because sometimes it's like, yeah, like you said, you don't want to maybe put some things out there because you fear that it's going to pigeonhole you or someone's going to take offense or maybe it won't do this or do that. But it's time for us to be bold and time for us to walk in what we know that we're called to. So thank you for being that light and that encouragement to
Thank you.
me and to my audience. Yeah.
Thank you for the pleasure, for the honor.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. So just want to take one more moment. If there's any final words that you want to share, definitely want to again highlight any final words. Or if not, I can go ahead and wrap us up. But I do want to provide those last words to you if there's anything that you want to share.
I guess I'll share that if this is spoken to folks, if people are feeling it in their hearts as individuals, as families, as couples, I'm available for coaching. You can go to my website, and I know we're going to share all of that after.
Yeah.
You can book time with me one on one just to
Yes.
get started, see if we connect. Follow me. Again, I know it's not going to be a one and done for most people, but I encourage you to follow me,
Mm.
read the content, let it sit with you. And then when you're ready, I'm available, and we can get started.
Yes, awesome. Yes, yes, yes. Follow, connect. All of that information will be within our show notes on the podcast platforms, down in the description of our YouTube platform. And whenever I'll be sharing content across the internet, I'll be making sure that there's links and there's instructions on how to get in contact with this wonderful individual, this powerful individual, and all of the services that she provides. So, guys, once again, as we always say, this is another not only episode, but another experience here in the I Am the Possible universe. I want to thank you guys so much for sharing in this moment. Thank you so much for giving us your attention. I hope and pray that something has landed, a seed has been sown, that you guys have been encouraged, inspired, that you've been called out to think and to consider something that maybe you've never considered before. And that even through just listening and observing the information that was shared today, that something within you would just rise up and cause you to believe in the possibilities, believe in this context and believe in any other context that you may find yourself in life. Until next time, guys, I love you guys. I'm praying for you guys. I'm believing in you guys. Let's continue to regulate, that we might continue to elevate, and that you might continue to be encouraged. God bless.